Good morning, everybody. Will the algebra class learn this math video? Outlook good. Let's do this. So, good morning, everybody. Let us do this. What were we learning about yesterday? We had three very important ideas. If we have a function, we express it in three different ways, right? So what was the first way of looking at a function? It was some sort of graph. What was another way of looking at a function? It had some function notation like this, g of x equals la 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 la, or you had a table notation, right? Every time you plug in x to get y. So what I'd like you to do for a do now is, if this is the f graph, this is the g function, this is the h table, find f of 5. Find g of 5, find h of 5. Answer the questions below to make sure you're up to speed in class. We can do this. Pause the video, let's see what you got. Let me see if you can get these correct. All right. So, what happens here? If I have f of 5, what does this mean? When x equals 5, y equals what? Right? So what do? I just look at the graph over here. I zoom in. I go, where is x equals 5? This is my x. X equals 5. Oh, I see it's over here. That's my point. So you see my point is some x comma y. So my x is 5. What's my y value? It looks like it's 3, right? Because here it's going to that y value of 3. So my y equals 3. So then what can I say? I could say f of 5 equals 3, right? That's what it is. But what does this 3 represent? It represents our y value. All right. What about g of 5? Well, let's say if I have this g of x equals 2x squared minus 2x minus 4. Well, what do I have to do? Well, let's see. I have to do g of 5. So what does that mean? Anywhere I see x, I replace this x with 5. So then what happens? This stays the same. Oh, I see an x. I'm going to put some parentheses. I put a 5. I square it, minus 2. Like this. Like that. Minus 4. Now, you can do it with the calculator. But how? And you should always try this question first without the calculator. How do you do it without the calculator? Now, we could have a quick learning moment together that if you see how you have this moment of 2 times 5 squared. So some of you have seen this in class where I showed it to you. One student says, oh, Mr. G, first let me do 2 times 5, which is 10, and then I have the square. So what is 10 squared? That is 10 times 10, and that's 100. If you did that, you will get a big fail because this is incorrect. You don't do 2 times 5 first. What must you do? You have to do the 5 squared first, and notice what is 5 squared? That's 5 times 5, which is 25. Then this becomes what? 2 times 25, and that is 50, okay? So if you do 2 times 5 first, or if you always multiply this times this first and square it, pow pow, that is no bueno. You have to square this first, right? And the reason is because of PEMDAS, right? You have to do the parentheses, then the exponents. All right. So notice that this becomes what? 2 times 25, right? Because you're doing the 5 squared first. Negative 2 times 5 is negative 10. This minus 4 is here. 2 times 25 is 50. minus 10 minus 4. What's 50 minus 10? That's 40 minus 4, which is 36. All right. What does this 36 represent, right? Go back. Take a second and think about what you did over here. What does this 36 represent? When x equals 5, y equals 36. All right, or you could say g of 5 is 36. Let's take a look over here. What must you do? If it says h of 5, when x equals 5, y equals what? Right? So what am I doing? I'm just looking at this table over here. You see how this is my x and this is my y? Well, this is 5, right? So it's just this y value here. It's 8. So you say h of 5 equals 8. All right. All right, all right. So this should be the first couple of answers in the beginning, right? So now let's take a look here. Something that you could do to summarize the idea. If you are given the graph, right? What are you looking for when you see f of 5? When you are given the function, how do you evaluate g of 5? When you are given the table, what does it mean to find h of 5, right? Summarize this in your own words. Take your time, pause the video, summarize this in your own words, and see if you could explain in words what you must do if you're given a picture, a function, or a table. Right? Take a minute because it will really help. Right? If you're given the graph, when x equals 5, y equals what? Find the point. Right? You just find the point when x equals 5. If you're given the function, plug in x equals 5 into g of x. Right? Here, if you're given a function, you just plug in the number into the function. If you're given a table, what does it mean? When x equals 5, y equals, this is always x, and you see how this says h of x? This is my y, right? So you're just finding the y value. All right, so find very, very nice. Very, very nice. So this is what we did yesterday, right? This is just a review of yesterday. What is the game plan today, ladies and gentlemen? What do we want to do? Here, we could do a quick little review on this. What does it mean to be linear? What does it mean to be quadratic? What does it mean to be cubic, right? Here, my highest exponent, right? Highest exponent is 1, right? And you say, oh, mister, I don't see an exponent. Notice this x over here, it has a 1. What is my highest exponent over here? 2. What is my highest exponent over here for cubic? It is 3, right? What does the graph look like for linear? What's my dance move? It looks like this, or it looks like that, or it looks like this, right? It looks like one of these graphs. What does it mean to be quadratic? It looks like this, or it looks like that. What does it mean to be cubic? It looks like this, or it could even look like that. And we'll explain that a little bit later. So these are linear functions, these are quadratic functions, these are cubic functions, and we've practiced plugging in numbers into these functions. What's the game plan today? Today, we're just going to learn about square root of x, right? That's how you read it, square root of x. So to get a better idea of this, we need to learn about a set of beautiful types of numbers. And what are we going to call these beautiful numbers? They're called perfect squares, right? A perfect square is created when you take a whole number and you square it, or you raise it to the power of 2. hint, hint, wink, wink, which one of these do you think we will use, right? When you raise it to the power of 2. We're using a quadratic function, right? So let's take a look. Fill in the table below. Try it without a calculator at first, and if you really need to, you could use a calculator to check it, right? So if I do the first one over here and it says 1 squared, what does that mean? I'm just saying, what is 1 times 1? Right? 1 times 1 is 1. Bam. This 1 is a perfect square. Let's try this one. 2 times 2. What is 2 times 2? That's 4. 4 is a perfect square. Right? 4 is a perfect square. So 1 is a perfect square, 4 is a perfect square. Can you keep going? How high within this can you go without the calculator, right? Without the calculator. Let me see what you got. 3 times 3, 4 times 4, 5 times 5, right? How high within this can you go? Pause the video. Let me see what you got. Let me see what you got. All right. Does it stop at 225? Is this my final perfect square? That's it? 225 is my final perfect square? How many perfect squares exist? Can I keep going? Can I say 16 square, 17 square? I could keep going. There's an infinite amount of perfect squares, right? So notice these numbers I boxed, I called the perfect squares, right? So it's really important to get the idea of this before we learn this, all right? Let's continue. Let's continue. All right. Let's turn the page and let's take a look over here. What's happening over here? It says, let us now explore the square root function. Fill in the table below. After you fill in the table, predict what you think the graph of h of x will look like, right? So h of x is the square root of x. Graph the points, answer the questions on the next page, right? So let's take a look over here. Let's take a look at this table. You should feel very confident on how to fill in the table, right? What can I do to fill in this table, right? Here you have x. These are the numbers you're going to plug in. This is the function. This h of x represents my y, and what you're doing, you're creating the points, right? So let's look at the first one. H of 0 equals square root of 0, right? H of 1 equals square root of 1. H of 4 equals square root of 4. La, 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 la. Okay, so you could fill it in. Now, just so we're on the same page, real quick, how do you read this, right? You say the square root of x, right? Or you could say what? The square root of 0, the square root of 1, the square root of 4. What does it mean? What does it mean? So let's say, for example, I said, what's the square root of 100? Let's use this example. What you have to say every time in your mind, this is very important, okay? Please understand this and keep it for the rest of your life. What does it mean when you say what's the square root of 100? What number times itself gives me 100? What number times itself gives me 100? It has to be 10 because 10 times 10 is 100. So the square root of 100 is 10. Okay. Well, what's the square root of 0? Right? what is the square root of 0? It has to be 0 because 0 times 0 is 0. What's the square root of 1? It's 1 because 1 times 1 is 1. What's the square root of 4? It's 2 because 2 times 2 is 4. What's the square root of 9? Right? What is the square root of 9? What is the square root of 16? Right? Try and complete this on your own. Make the points. Right? Pause the video. You can do this, you can do this. Right. This is what you should have. So it's very interesting. Let's see what it will look like. Well, the first point 0, 0 is here. And then notice if this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5, this is 6, this is 7. Pause the video. How do I graph these points? Right? And then what will this graph look like? What will this graph look like? Well, when x is 1, so let's say like 1 is here, my y value is 1. When x is 4, the y value is 2. When x is 9, the y value is 3. When x is 16, the y value is 4. When x is 25, the y value is 5. When x is 36, the y value is 6. When x is 49, the y value is about 7. So it keeps going, like the graph kind of looks like this. And it keeps going up and up and up. This is the square root of x. What it really looks like is something like this. This is the graph of square root of x. All right. What I'd like you to do is try these questions over here. And then take a look at your Delta Math. You have a new assignment for today. You got this.